Let's try this again. Pretty neat. I like that. Oh, it's okay. You watching my stream? Mm-hmm. Oh. What was that? You are in the clear. Alright. Why you do that? It's not okay, let's do some drawing. Definitely. It's like pointing up like this. However, could you get me some ibuprofen? My head's hurting. Two. Thanks, baby. Very sneaky. It's really not that necessary. It's very cool. I have some more water? You're cute. I do declare.
Benjamin, how's it going?
Going pretty good.
Woo!
Pretty good. What's up with you?
Oh man, I'm partying.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty well. Doing pretty good. I really am.
Yeah?
No, I had a pretty good night's sleep, and I got up and I had some coffee and looked out my window, greeted the dogs.
The dogs?
Yeah, you get to know the dogs of your neighborhood, and I greet them. I say, "Hi, big dog. Hi, little dog." They don't hear me. They're dogs.
Maybe they do hear you.
Well, they're so cute. There's a big Shiba that always walks way out in front, and there's an adorable little corgi that's always way behind. And he walks like this. Tip, 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 tip. His little tail wagging. I'm getting kind of a thing for corgis, and it's a little bit concerning.
Those are the royal dogs, I think they have in the UK.
Oh, you should read about it. Read the Wikipedia page. It's fascinating. The queen, the monarch, as you say, has had corgis for years. Mm-hmm. It's the monarchical canine. And, they've come and gone, as you do. But she treats them very well. They get carried around from place to place. Each corgi has a different bespoke menu for each meal. And then they're fed in order of seniority.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there's a lot to that.
Oh, you kidding me? It's a monarchy.
Like, what are they eating? Are they eating lamb, or what are they eating?
I don't know. I didn't get to the bespoke part of the menu, but I'm guessing it's probably something, probably no grains, right? We don't want grains. You should look up, I'm going to say, corgi crossbreeds. And the amazing thing is that a corgi mixed with any other breed of dog makes it look like a corgi dressed up as that breed of dog. And it's pretty darn cute. I'm referring here to, I'll send this to you, something called thatcutesite.com.
Okay.
Not a fake news outlet. Look at those guys. I know you're not a huge dog fan, but I mean, you can appreciate the idea of a dog.
Sure, I have no problem. People have dogs and they love them.
They let them live in the house with them.
Yeah, right in there.
Look at that basset hound crossed with a corgi. Look at the beagle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God.
That's weird.
They're so cute. Look at the corgi chihuahua.
It's really weird.
It's so, but isn't it? And, a cockapoo mixed with a corgi.
Whatever hits people and makes them look at that and see the cuteness, I don't see it the same way that other people see it. That gene missed me.
Gene missed you.
Yeah.
I put it in show notes so people can go and do their own due diligence. A papillon. Look at those ears.
Yeah.
Iranian.
Like
Oh,
I
with
can
a
appreciate it, but it's not for me.
bug. Yeah, not your jam.
Yeah.
Anyway, I greet the dogs, and then so Big Dog is usually way far ahead. They got those leashes that kind of like with like a fishing reel, and so a Big Dog is always way out in front, and then Little Dog is way behind, and then Big Dog will stop in the park to do his business, and then Little Dog will just stand there and look at the pet companion, and just with tail wagging, doop 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 doop. I think I want a corgi. I don't need a dog. I don't need a dog. I don't need a dog. I don't need an iPad. I need to be talked out of all of these things. We got a cat, you know.
Yeah, some people have cats and dogs too.
Yeah.
Do you have anything smaller, like a hamster, or a gerbil, or a little parakeet, or anything?
No, all we have is the cat and the child.
Kids are on a tirade now. They both really, really want a cat, and they're doing that thing that kids do, where, well, since you won't let us get a cat, could we get a guinea pig? Could we get a hamster? Could we get a bird? And it's always no. It's no.
I don't think you want hardly any of those things.
I don't want any of them. I've had all of them. Growing up, I had almost every pet. Not like, I never had exotic pets like a tarantula, of course, or anything.
Did you ever have a ball python, Dan?
I did not ever go through that stage where I thought...
The snake stage.
No.
You know?
No, but I had hamsters and guinea pigs, and I had one of those lizards, the iguanas. I had that. I had cats, lots of cats.
I was acquainted with a family that had a very, 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 I don't want to be ableist, a very, how does one say, obese guinea pig. And they basically gave the guinea pig an entire room, and the entire room was like one big guinea pig cage. There was like lettuce and cedar chips everywhere. Could it
have been a capybara?
You know what else is good is a wombat. You ever look at a wombat? Look at a wombat. Go search on a wombat.
Yeah, I know all about them. They're pretty cool.
You know about wombats?
Oh yeah. Ask me anything you want to know about a wombat. I've got the details.
Are they adorable?
Yes. They are. They look much cuter than a capybara because their faces are more compressed. Let me pull up a picture and make sure I'm getting this right.
Capybara, I believe, is the largest rodent.
Sure, why not?
Look at this one. Oh, look at that.
I feel like the wombat's related to, it's like a kinder, gentler version of a Tasmanian devil.
Okay, or maybe like a Canadian Wolverine. Like it's like super polite. Actually, Wolverine is Canadian.
Wolverine is Canadian, so
story checks out. Lives to be 150.
Look at these little guys.
So
they're really cute.
Look at those teeth.
Do you think they're friendly?
They sure look friendly. You know, it's like going up to any animal. You gotta let it sniff your hand, I bet. I confuse it with a wallaby. A wallaby's like a petite kangaroo,
yeah,
right?
I don't care for those.
Yeah.
Nothing's worse than like a petite kangaroo.
Oh, come on, make up your mind. Are you going to be a kangaroo or are you going to be... Come on. Are wallabies kangaroos? They're very similar marsupials. You want to button this up?
Yeah, let's do it.
Dan, while we're at it, why don't you tell people where to find show notes for episode 328 of your Back to Work program?
328 already?
328.
My goodness. 5x5.tv/B as in boys, 2 as in the number, W as in wallaby.
Oh, they're so cute. Look at that nose.
/32.
No, wallabies. Screw wallabies. I'm talking about wombats. Let's talk about something important.
Wombats versus wallabies. Topic for today.
Oh, look, this one's eating a carrot and a corn on the cob. Look at those
Are they
those
both
feet.
Australian?
Yes, I think so. They also have a lot of spiders there.
Okay.
Oh, here's the wombat
Did
coming
I
up.
tell you about the spider that I ran into right after the show last week?
Did you conjure it, Dan?
No.
Okay.
There was this sort of sickly-looking, white, anemic spider in the hallway leading from the office to the elevator, and there were several of them, over different parts of the hallway, and they're doing something I haven't really seen a lot of spiders do. They're just hanging from their web. They weren't making a web to catch bugs in. They weren't en route to anything. They're just hanging at about eye level, like a Halloween decoration. Just hanging on a single thread, not doing anything, not moving, not in transit, just hanging with their little legs splayed out, as if They're waiting to embrace your face like a face hugger from Alien. Yeah, I don't know. They looked a lot like that.
Was it albino-ish or just happened to be like colored?
No,
was
they
it
were
translucent?
No, it was opaque.
Opaque spiders.
And they're just hanging. And I saw and I don't know what was going on. Multiple ones of them out there. Just that one day, and then they were gone. It's really weird.
Yeah, I like spiders. My family doesn't like them. I like them.
I like your family.
I feel like spiders are good luck.
John Roderick says that he will, if he finds a spider in his home, he will go out of his way, unlike other bugs, which technically a spider's not a bug, I get it.
Sure.
He will go out of his way to capture it and take it outside and release it. The old catch and release.
Catch and release. Yep, just like in John Wick. But he does it in a kind way.
I think, yes, with kindness in his heart.
Kindness in his heart. But he's got Seattle's. I don't want to say anything. I don't want to upset our SeaTac listeners. I think Seattle's got a little bit of a spider problem, from what I can understand.
Ugh.
There's a time of year when they're just everywhere. You're just walking through stuff and there's just spiders everywhere.
No, that's silly.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I don't know.
There's a spider in episode 2 of American Gods. I don't want to spoil it.
Oh yeah.
Have you watched this yet?
I subscribed. I couldn't get it anywhere. It's been removed from all of the trucks, and I couldn't find it anywhere. So I signed up for the 7-day trial of Stars.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get through it. I just watched the beginning. It's there's a lot of violence.
There is. The first episode was especially violent, and I don't. You know me. I don't care for that. But it was. I got through it. It was fine, and I mean.
I heard around episode 4 or 5, it really comes to life. That's what I heard.
Well, I'm in episode 2 now, and I'm really enjoying it. Other than the violent stuff, but it's the premise, and I don't think this is a spoiler at all, because it's in the description that Stars promoted. Is that apparently the gods that we think of,
the old gods and the new gods.
The gods are real, and there are old gods, and the old gods are like the ones that we know. I guess I don't know if I'm not far enough into the show to know what kind of names they have, but though all of the gods of all the different cultures, I guess, are real, but that there are new gods, and the new gods are like media and technology and other things like that. So. It's and maybe perhaps they seem to be at war with the old gods, or all the gods, or I don't know. But so far it's interesting.
I'm gonna give it a swing. I don't want Stars. I signed up for it, and it's like, oh boy, this is a really good example of like what I don't want.
Yeah.
Given the other things I'm already subscribed to, so.
Well, they don't even spell it right. They can't even spell it right.
It seems like they would catch that at some point.
Right. Or maybe
they had to change it for legal reasons. Maybe they got sued by the galaxy or something. Not the galaxy, sorry,
the solar system.
Don't email Dan.
No, I think they spelled it wrong once, and they're like, "Oh my God, how did they get through it?" And this, you know what? The guy in the back room is like, "Listen, guys, you're overthinking this. Let's just run with it. It's with a Z now."
It's like discovering penicillin.
That's exactly what it was like.
Right? I mean,
yes.
Wasn't that kind of an accident?
Absolutely. The guy left a piece of bread out overnight. Got sick, ate it, got better.
Do your kids eat bread?
Nope.
You don't even buy bread, right?
No. We get there is a gluten-free bread that they get sometimes.
That's not bread. That's not bread.
That's why I said no when you asked.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
I was thinking ahead.
I'll have a gluten-free bun.
Sure.
Sometimes. I'd almost rather do a lettuce wrap. I'd like to see a new kind of bespoke scientific lettuce that's a hardier green leaf or romaine lettuce. I'd like to see a hardier lettuce because I like a wrap. But it does make it kind of difficult to as a hand food.
What is the thing that they call? Is it just a lettuce wrap or whatever when you eat it? Like usually the Asian restaurants will do it where they'll do like lettuce and they'll put some kind of ground up.
Oh, lettuce cups.
Lettuce cups.
Lettuce cups rule. Yeah, they give you half a head of iceberg and you just go to town with it. I've had when I'm traveling, I will and you're only like the only easy food is kind of sketchy food. I want to say Carl's Jr. has a pretty good lettuce wrap greasy burger.
I've always been puzzled by the Carl's Jr. names because it's Carl 'S Carl's Jr. His
it's
Jr.
not Carl Jr.'s is.
Right, but
it's
what
like
is that?
Is it like Attorneys General?
I think that's exactly what it's like.
There's going to be a gathering of all the Carl's Jr.
Carl's Jr.
if you have a daddy named Carl, you're welcome here.
Is it that Carl's Jr. meaning son of Carl?
Oh, of Carl. I try to call my wife of Merlin.
Or is it his junior? Like this
really
is
Captain
this is
Merlin.
Merlin's car. This is Merlin's junior. Oh, nice to meet you, Merlin's junior.
Should be like Carl O. Merlin.
Or is the burger the junior?
Well, let's find out.
What is that other place you guys have up there?
Carl's Jr. is hard.
Beard
I think.
Papas.
Oh yeah, that's not my jam.
What is a
That's-
Beard Papas?
It's a cream puff. It's like a flaky pastry, full of cheesy cream sauce.
I saw
People love
signs
it.
for it while I was visiting the last time, and everyone
Yes.
was just, they were going on and on about everywhere I look at Beard Papas.
It's kind of like Krispy Kreme for people with a master's degree. They've got it at the Westfield near the Lobster Me. Now I enjoy a Lobster Me. I'll go to Lobster Me and I'll get a lobster dish.
Like, hey, buddy, lobster me over here.
Lobster Me. Yeah. It's costly, but it's pretty good. The really kick-ass place in our Westfield is the Korean barbecue place. That place goes great guns, and that's what my kid wants when we go there. And then, of course, it's about 4 times more food than she can possibly eat. So I end up not getting what I want, and I just eat whatever she leaves
Oh,
behind.
yeah, that's smart.
That's a nice feeling. I don't really get my own food anymore. That's not entirely true. Sometimes we cook 2 meals, and that doesn't feel good. But sometimes, we want something that's a little more ambitious. And she just wants something to put butter on that's white. Yeah.
You know, like a white corn.
Like a white corn.
Corn cob.
Could be a bread. It could be a fusilli. But I got her to try a meatball sub, and she really liked it. Now
Really?
she claims that after hamburgers, it's her favorite sandwich.
I loved when I used to work at a place called Dino's Pizza, and I had 2 jobs. One of them was working at the Publix, doing bagging groceries, and then eventually.
Yeah, and I still miss Publix.
Promoted to stockman, and at the same time, in the evenings, I would ride my bike down the street and go work at the Dino's. And this was like a little Italian restaurant they did pizzas and subs, and they did some other things that weren't that great. Like they would do like a veal parmesan, a chicken parm, eggplant parm, and a lot of it involved, like, the ingredients were fresh, but everything was kind of finished in the microwave for some reason, like the cheese or something. I don't know, but the subs were not like that, and they used the meatball sub. I'd never had a meatball sub until I started working there, and the way they would put it, and they would put it into the pizza oven at the end to melt the cheese and toast it up.
Oh my God, it's so good. Well,
Oh my
I was
God.
explaining to my daughter, the nice thing about a meatball sub is it's what I would call a high floor food, where like even the worst sub you get 80% of the time will not be as bad as the worst of something else that you get. Now, veal parm, I mean, if you're not moving enough of those units, you're going to get some nasty parm. But with a meatball sub, I mean, some are obviously better than others, but I think it's important to find low floor foods. No, an Italian sub, same thing. It might not be the greatest thing, but a lot of the taste of of an Italian sub comes out of stuff like the oils and and the whatnots.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't buy gluten stuff to have in the house.
No.
Yeah.
No, we haven't for maybe 7 years at least.
That's smart.
But it made a big difference for us,
Yeah, I know.
But
I know.
and a lot of people who do that, they struggle with it because they really enjoy a lot of the wonderful tasting foods that are out there. Pasta, good bread that actually has a taste and a texture.
Yeah, but it's empty calories, and it's not necessarily very, very good for your tummy. It's it's one of those things, though. It's not unlike coffee in a couple ways, where, well, obviously coffee is special, but it's a little bit like coffee, where like once you're well and truly off it for a few days, it becomes a lot less difficult. But getting to that point is very difficult, because also it's a convenience food, and we've talked about this numerous times on here. Well, I struggle with like, I forgot to eat, and it's 3 o'clock, and now I got to go do a thing. What am I going to get? And most of the options, it's like eating out of a hotel vending machine or something. Do they even have those anymore? It's like raiding the mini bar. Like, you're not going to get artisanal elk jerky out of there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I try to minimize it. I try to not have it, when I can. And sometimes I end up throwing a lot of food away, and I don't like it. Sometimes I'll buy 2 sandwiches and eat the filling and throw out most of the bread.
Sure.
But you feel like a weirdo going and saying, okay, that your menu's huge, but could you make this in a different way and wrap it in lettuce? And you're like, oh, you're such a snowflake.
No, I hate doing that. I hate it anytime or asking someone, is this gluten-free? Oh, hold on, it doesn't say on the menu. Let me go back and see if we can do it that way for you. Come back.
I think
down.
it's not generally not gluten-free.
I hate asking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got to be careful. I'm learning a lot. I watch a lot of MSNBC now, which has not been that good for my mental health in any number of ways.
I'm trying to imagine you sitting back, with getting a cold root beer and
just
pulling up
really
a chair,
hunker down and listen to Rachel Maddow explain
popcorn
something.
and maybe a hot dog. What are those little hot dogs they have? The tiny little ones and they're
little Smokies.
Yeah, with the tiny little buns.
Oh, those are adorable.
What are those?
Totes Dorbs. It could be like a little smoky.
Pig in a blanket or something?
Pig in a blanket. Could be a pig in a blanket.
It's like a faux hors d'oeuvre.
Donkey in the biscuit.
Tiny.
It's one of those things where, I think a pig in a blanket canonically is you get some kind of a sausage wrapped up in some kind of a bread. Now we would do that with crescent rolls because we're white trash. So we would buy bread in a tube and then wrap that around some discount sausage, and that's flavor country. Or you go to a wedding. You ever go to a wedding and they have the hot dish, hot plate thing? You get like the wieners in that sauce.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
You know what that is? That's
I don't know what that's called.
It's grape jelly and ketchup.
Look at this. They sell. You can buy. Like Oscar Mayer makes mini beef hot dogs. You can just go and buy them.
I could just eat them out of a bowl like Jabba the Hutt.
When I Googled tiny hot dogs and looked at images, over and over and over again, I'm seeing a picture of a hamster eating peanuts, and I don't know why. Do you see the hamster?
I know why. Because you're hitting one of the great YouTube memes, which is tiny hamsters eating tiny food.
Okay.
Oh, it's really cute. You ever seen it? You ever seen the tiny hamster eat the burrito?
No, but I'm sure I'm going to look at it after the show.
When they have the hamsters go on dates together and they keep knocking everything down, it's really, really cute.
Have you seen the one of the two guinea pigs riding the little scooters, remote control scooters? That's the best thing on the internet right now. It's about a year old, but I watch it daily.
I love the internet. There's so many great things here. Boy, look at these tiny hot dogs.
See, but it's the ones that I think they're in a croissant style wrap roll. The ones that I was imagining. And there's a name. There's a name for these things.
Did you ever make bread in a tube when you were a kid?
Yes.
Like all those Pillsbury things?
Yeah, you pop the thing. Yes.
Yeah. It was kind of like Jiffy Pop. I mean, it kind of had like a built-in fun factor to it because they showed you in the commercial how you're supposed to slam it on the edge of your counter, and it's pretty dynamic when you're living in Florida.
Oh, yeah.
Big time.
I love those things. And the Jiffy Pop, talk about
Ain't
fun.
It just?
Making the Jiffy Pop, sitting there shaking it
so
while your
cute.
hand's just burning a little bit.
Hot dogs, grape jelly, ketchup. Crock-pot Little Smokies with grape jelly sauce.
Little Smokies.
Little Smokies. Crock-pot Little Smokies with grape jelly sauce.
Little Smokies.
Little Smokies.
That's that. Yeah.
And Bacon Ray had a song called Little Smoky. Lil, like Lil Sebastian.
Oh,
Lil
yeah. L-I-L.
L-I-L. L-I-L. L-O-L. Yep. It's been a big week. Dan, important follow-up from last week. Did you ever reach out? Did you reach back? Did you ever reach around to our... Did you touch base?
This podcast?
Make contact? Did you ever explore...
This podcast is called
who wanted
Back to Work.
Doesn't like feedback on the show. Did you ever find out
and it's just these two guys.
of feedback?
No, I never heard back.
Who
is that something you could work
kind
on?
of shoot the shit
I'll
and talk
that.
about
Because I got some more this week. People were just going to be mad.
like technology stuff and some like productivity stuff and I don't know, a bunch of random
this
stuff.
Week? I mean, I got some odds and sods.
They're just kind of pleasant and
something.
funny.
I want to promote this.
Pretty smart.
Thursday night. I've known this for weeks.
Highly recommend it.
And I haven't been promoting it.
Check it out in the iTunes.
merlinm.com/meetup. Thursday night, Ungainly X-Man Meetup number 17. Now, here's what you do. You come out to Two Cats Comics at 320 West Portal Avenue. You come out around 7:30 on Thursday, June 15th, and you meet me, you meet the other nerds, you look at comic books, you come and you hang out, you visit. You don't have to like comic books, but it's a very nice crowd. And I have it on some authority that
You
we
know what? I can
may
actually
have a special guest.
Ooh, exciting.
grab a link
Yeah,
to it.
well, I can
Throw it
tell
in the
you,
chat.
but I don't want to tell the
'Cause
audience
this is
because
the
I can't
internet.
guarantee that it's going to happen.
Okay. Yeah, tell me after.
Mhm.
Share
No, here.
things.
Wait,
Put it in
tell
the
me.
You tell me.
Let's see.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, that person would be a wonderful guest. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bam.
So, can't guarantee, but come on out. Two Cats Comics, 320 Westport. You go to merlinm.com/meetup to get the details, find out the various Muni lines that you can be taking there, and then we go and we have a drink. It's really fun.
Well, if that person does show up, please say hello from me.
I will. I think you guys have met.
We have corresponded over the internet. I don't know if we met in person. I think we
Pretty sure you guys
did
have met.
one time. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, please come out. Also, I think the sale will still be going on. They're having a huge sale right now. All of their T-shirts, and they have a bunch of cool T-shirts. All their T-shirts are $10 right now.
That's all T-shirts?
Yeah, and they did a restock. It's not like they're just trying to clean out the garbage. Like they got good stuff there. That's where I got my Millennium Falcon. You know that nerdy Millennium Falcon shirt everybody wears?
Yeah.
I got me one of them there.
That's
Yeah.
good.
I was wearing it most of last week.
Do you watch it in between?
That's no moon. Oh, between wearings? You know, I return no. No. Yeah. The worst though is when you take a shower and then put a dirty shirt back on. That's no good.
Ooh,
That's
no.
not good.
Don't
Yeah.
do that.
I'm very hygienic though.
You know what's on constant repeat now? All of a sudden, Rogue One is on constant repeat now in my house.
What made you think of that?
Well, you said that's no moon,
Oh, okay.
and that made me think of it. It's constantly now on.
By
And The
request
Force
of your
Awakens
youngsters?
too. Yes, no, they put it on.
Oh.
They put it on. My son especially likes it, and I don't know. I bought that thing on iTunes that pre-ordered it, so we had
Yeah,
it
me
the
too.
day it came out, and I did the same thing with Force Awakens, and I think they watched it maybe once, and now
It's so weird what they
on
glom onto. It's
repeat
just like they'll
all
not
the
even
time,
notice
repeat.
they don't notice it's there for weeks or months, and then it's all they want to watch. It's the strangest thing.
right, and both of them on all the time. I don't know why.
Those are
I
pretty,
don't mind.
pretty good movies.
They're great movies. I
Yeah.
watched Rogue One again from like start to finish, and I felt the same emotions coming back up at the end of it.
Yeah.
No, can't do it.
I'm glad they're doing that thing. I liked Rogue One. I didn't like it as much as Force Awakens, but I did like it. But I think it's neat that they're doing the hey, little less pressure. This is not going to be like the huge thing. Like
Right.
relax.
Do I copy and
It's just going
paste?
to be a story about Star Wars. Keep it in your pants. Like I
I've
think that's a
done that
really
once.
smart.
That was
Right.
actually
Time.
the proposed title
Yeah.
originally. I don't know if you knew that. Keep it in your pants.
keep
That was the code name
Just draw it
for the
again.
movie.
blue milk. My daughter will
American
just
Gods.
she watches. She likes Arrival. I'll just
Really?
come in on Saturday morning. She's watching Arrival. It's a really good movie.
It is good. I tried to get my son into it, and he's like, "All right, when is something going to happen?" I'm like, "It's already happening." It's
I love
already.
the pace. I love the pacing of that movie.
Me too.
I made my wife watch. I didn't make her. I mean, it wasn't physical. I'm not a monster.
Will you
But-
untie me from the sofa, please?
Well, it's date night. So actually it was date night, and she was not tied up at the time. And I was like, oh, tonight, like she was really tired. She's gonna go to bed early, watch the House of Cards in bed, as you do. And I was like, finally, I bought John Wick 2, and I've really been meaning to watch it. And I was like, before you go to bed, because you gotta wait for your window, right? You can't go to bed too early. It screws everything up. I was like, any chance I could show you the first act of John Wick? Would you consider watching that with me? Because
Well,
it's a movie that I
Gramp
really,
over
really
here.
like, and it actually admire.
How are you doing over
Partly
there?
because I was so surprised at how much better it was than I expected. And she was like, yeah,
Very
sure.
good.
And we watched over half of it. Like before she was like, oh, I'm kind of tired, I gotta go to bed. But like the storytelling in that movie is remarkable. The events that set that movie in motion are mostly covered in 6 minutes. Like, have you seen John Wick?
The first one. I haven't seen
Yeah.
the second one.
No, that's what I mean, the first one. Because I was like, before I watch the second one, it'd be fun to watch some of the first one. But like, the wackadoo I mean, to describe that movie to somebody is it's such a funny idea, and I'm not going to spoil it for anybody, but you know, they picked the wrong guy, and they did the wrong thing, and now he's got his sledgehammer and he's digging up his wizard money. I love the pace of storytelling. I love the world building. I love the whole like community of people who do what he does at Elsewhere Engines Hotel. Like all of it is like, it's the pace of that movie, not just the amazing fight scenes, but the whole pace of that movie is, I think, so well done. And Keanu Reeves is perfect for that role.
Everything about the premise of the movie and everything about it, I thought, this is not the kind of movie that I would even remotely be interested in.
Sounds terrible.
It sounds terrible. The premise sounds stupid. I don't think Keanu Reeves is maybe young enough for the part anymore. And this isn't the kind of movie I like. It's just shooting and violence and blah, blah, blah. And I wound up watching it one day almost by accident. Like it was on and I was home. Maybe I had a cold. I was homesick. I don't remember. But it was something like that. And it came on. And after about 15 minutes, I'm like, well, this is great. Yeah. This is a great movie. It's so funny.
It's got Willem Dafoe.
Yeah. Oh, he was good in that Spider-Man movie. We watched that again recently. Forget how good he was.
Goblin?
Yeah, Green Goblin.
He's Goblin Prime, right?
Yeah, and it shows him going into the chamber. So he injects himself. He goes in the chamber with the gas.
Garden cast.
Busts out of there.
No, I'm not.
Everybody wants to be Spider-Man, but Spider-Man.
Is that a what's the like premise of that or topic?
You know, Tom Hardy's going to be Venom in the new Venom movie coming out, I think 2018.
It's an interesting idea.
He's going to be great.
Is it about gardening?
They'll do anything to cover up his pretty face. It's so strange.
I can only
always
assume.
putting stuff on his face.
Oh yeah. Do you ever see that movie?
Ladies love his mouth, and they're always putting a mask on him. It's very odd.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Also, his dog just died, so that's sad.
I'm not following that.
Also, the vice president's cat died.
I did see that.
That was sad. Oreo.
Yeah. Yep.
Oreo was a sweetie. I think I'm turning into a little bit of an old cat woman. Old cat lady.
You're moving toward that because you have one cat?
I don't know. My wife and I have both noticed something in ourselves where like we're getting more and more into like cute animals, which is something I've always actively pushed back against. And now we both spend a fair amount of our day looking at pictures of cute animals.
Next thing you tell me, you'll be watching football on Sundays.
Well, are you ready for some cat photos?
That song's coming back. Did you hear about that? The song is it's coming back this season.
Well, I mean, there was a time where some of his rowdy friends were there. Mm-hmm. There were times where people that he knew were there.
That actually sounds pretty incredible.
Yeah.
30-second Olive Garden commercial.
Now, I think he's getting
for
the
like
band
30
back
minutes.
Yeah, all of his rowdy friends will be there.
Yeah, I could see a
really cool
deep dive
yesterday.
being
a woman
explored.
I follow on Tumblr.
I will totally check that out.
How do I describe what she does? She's an illustrator, like a comic artist, and she does these awesome infographics, mostly for this like Halloween. Her name's Kate.
Interesting.
KWILLAERT, maybe?
I can only imagine what would happen if you
and she does these really
went to Olive
Here
Garden.
you go, dude. I'm gonna send this to you. She does these great infographics
recording that
for
and just ate so much pasta that
HalloweenCostumes.com.
you were in a pasta daze.
No, wait, bear with me.
Okay.
And then just watched more pasta.
And she's done this for Batgirl. She's done this for Wolverine. This is her, the evolution of
That sounds pretty
Catwoman.
good.
Oh.
And she shows, starting in 1940, every costume change for the character over the years.
The first one's not really a costume. It's just a
That's
woman
what my daughter
in
said.
a green
Yeah.
dress. Only in as much as I'm wearing jeans and a t-shirt now, I'm in a costume by that standard. We're all wearing a costume.
Mind blown.
1940
What are some other ones she's
is
got?
just a strange cat head on a human's body, like an Egyptian thing.
Look at Batgirl. Send you Batgirl.
These are really fun.
Adam West passed.
I know.
He seems like a good guy.
But
what she did for Wolverine is great.
I love the original Batman TV show.
Oh my
when
god, I was
growing up.
obsessed. I was obsessed with that show.
Car and the gadgets and
Oh, I mean, 100%. And there were certain TV shows that we played.
right.
Like what, $6 Million Man,
Yep.
SWAT,
Mhm.
but definitely Batman. You would play Batman. You would play a TV show.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ultraman was another one for me.
Total hashtag carb
But
trip.
Batman was
Absolutely.
so good. I just, I was thinking about it all last week. Whenever he was talking about it, right?
Catatonic Carbonera.
Everything that went on, and
Carbonera.
like,
That's a hard word.
misty and nostalgic and
to say.
everything, but it was. That was a wonderful time, I think, to grow up as a kid because now everything's on demand. Everything's right there. You can pick and choose what you want to watch. You can rewatch things. There is no, there's not really that much anticipation. It's like, oh, I want to see that one movie. I want to watch Rogue One. There it is, watching it. And when we grew up, it's like you had to wait for the same bad
just
time,
talking
same
about
bad channel.
Olive
You were, that was tomorrow. Are you kidding? Or wait a minute, Monday? I gotta wait till Monday.
Yeah.
The pasta draw.
You just be hanging all history of Fantastic Four.
I want it.
Designing the Invisible Woman.
Even though I had
really good.
half
Isn't
a
she
pizza
talented?
for dinner.
Yeah, very
The Wolverine
cool.
one's really good too. Yeah.
Hit
oh my gosh, what have you done to Sue Storm? There's some very strange costumes in here.
Anyways, I love that there's
Italian bready limits.
Yeah, right.
She's invisible. That's good. Good sense of humor.
It's like a Marge Piercy poem. The week has been big. The week has been huge. We have so we'll find out what people want instead of what's going on.
Even
I'm always yammering away out here. What's going on with you?
Well, I mean,
that's an emote in here. Just a big old.
There was,
yeah, spaghetti. Of
there
course.
was a wonderful Lebowski moment in the most recent
appropriate.
episode of Fargo, and I'm not sure if you're caught
Thumbs
up.
up.
Oh,
A+
no, I haven't
use of
seen it. I heard it got
emotes.
good again.
Damn.
I thought it was good. I thought it's been great the whole time.
I just heard a podcast where they said this latest
should
episode
have
was some kind of
like
set
that.
piece in it
there we
that
go.
was like really amazing.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think the whole show is great, and if
Season 2 is a high bar. I watched the first
yeah.
couple of this season. I loved Ramona Flowers in it, but it didn't grab me quite as hard as season 2. But I'll eventually watch it.
Watch it and watch this most recent episode because if it pays a wonderful tribute to the Big Lebowski and
another Coen Brothers film.
Well, yeah.
Oh, I get it. Okay.
And
that's funny.
Yeah, no, it's really good. You've got to watch it just for the scene, and the scene kind of sneaks up on you a little bit, but you expect it.
I mean, am
and
I
it's
having
great.
a stroke? They did Fargo and they did Big Lebowski, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah, okay. All
and
right,
a handful of other ones in between too. That
In
were,
between, yeah.
Oh, I need to watch that.
Lebowski matters. The dude Lebowski mistaken for a millionaire Lebowski.
Have you seen
seeks
Fargo?
restitution for his room drug and enlists his
The
bowling
movie
buddies
and the
to
show?
get it.
Yeah.
Both of them? Oh,
That is the IMDb summary of the Big
you've
Lebowski.
seen everything.
They picked the wrong man.
That's
It's,
right.
really it's a lot like John Wick.
It's
and a
the
lot.
same. It's the same premise.
And Daisy really brought the room together. No spoilers. Daisy should get a special dog Oscar. They should have dog Oscars.
Dog's only in it for 30 seconds.
Oh, come on.
My ears are getting sweaty.
I mean, that's like saying Janet Leigh shouldn't get credit for Psycho.
Well, she actually was in the movie for a while.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a dog MacGuffin. She's only in like the first reel.
Well, that's it's like the first third of the movie she's in that,
I
driving
think
around.
you're a doggist.
I have no problem with cameos,
Yeah.
but that's what that was.
What about the band cameo? You like them? Word up.
Oh yeah, no, I like them.
Ow. Well, Dan, before we get into the content that we're going to figure out eventually, would you like to tell me about something that you like?
Try and tell you all about Squarespace.
Squarespace!
We've got some friends over there, and what those guys do, they make websites for you, so you don't have to make them. That's a summary. Basically, you log on to Squarespace, create your account. It takes about 5 minutes to go from entering your email address and creating
Strain
the
is
account
really
to having
delayed.
a website up and running with the content that you want, that looks and works the way that you want, and you do it all with no HTML necessary, no CSS necessary, nothing fancy. You just pick from one of their beautiful templates that have won all kinds of awards, and they're beautiful and great. And you just basically drag and drop things and make it look and work the way that you want. It's genius, and it keeps you from wasting time trying to build your own website and lets you get back to the things that are important. Lets you get back to the things that you're good at. Lets you get back to the things that will bring you joy or bring you money or whatever it is that you're making a website for, instead of having to go out and spend a lot of time and money trying to do it yourself and maybe not doing it that well. Instead, you can just go there and put your stuff into their system. You don't have to worry about upgrading it. You don't have to worry about, like malware taking it over. You don't have to worry about anything. They handle everything. No patches, nothing to install. 24/7 customer support. And you can really use it to make pretty much any kind of website. They've got e-commerce stuff built in so that if you want to sell stuff, you can sell stuff. I mean, you name it, they're doing it. And a friend of mine who I do another show with called Unwound, it's a show about watches. He just launched his new website where he restores and sells vintage watches. And
no kidding.
It's all on Squarespace. So it's, I haven't quite seen one that is quite as attractive as this. I'll promote it a little bit. It's hubcityvintage.com. If you want to go and see what you can do with Squarespace, he's got videos there. He's got a store built in. He's got image galleries. It's everything that Squarespace does really well, all in one site.
Oh, look at that. That is pretty.
Yeah. So go check that out. Yeah. That's Squarespace.
That's Squarespace.
So go check it out, squarespace.com, and if you use the code It's Your Show, one word, It's Your Show, you'll get 10% off your first purchase, and you'll be showing a great deal of support for this program. So we appreciate the support from Squarespace. Go check it out. It's Your Show, 10% off. Thanks, Squarespace.
Bok, bok. Shop watch rolls.
Yeah, they make custom little watch rolls. So if you want to take a couple watches with you on a trip somewhere, you're going on a trip for a week, don't want to wear the same watch the whole time. You put them in your little watch roll. And
good to go.
Yeah, done. It's that easy. QED.
QED. Let's make sure that's in show notes. There you go. Hub City. This is apropos of nothing, but this just came across my transom. I think this is one of those interesting, like Harper's Index number kind of moments.
Harper's Index.
Harper's Index. You ever read Harper's? When they got the page, it's like a number and then what the number means. Remember Harper's Index?
I think I remember that.
Oh, yeah. I used to subscribe. Big fan. So this is San Francisco.
What's that one little magazine that everyone used to? It's like a half pint magazine, and it's like your grandma would have it.
Reader's Digest.
Reader's Digest. Yeah. Whatever happened to that?
Humor in Uniform. Huh? Life in these United States.
Yeah. Those some titles of articles.
They had different joke sections.
Oh.
It's Humor in Uniform. That was all like military jokes. There was Life in these United States. There were other ones. Yeah, and what they would do was they would take things mostly that had been published elsewhere and then make them short. And they also had a line of books. You could buy condensed books from Reader's Digest.
So, like, if you didn't want to read Moby Dick or something, it's not.
Right.
It was Cliff Notes, like Cliff Notes.
Yeah, there's all kinds of Spark Notes. There's lots of those. But yeah, it would be like crazy disabled man chases fish.
Oh,
Email
Spark.
down.
I remember Spark Notes.
Yeah, I bought some of those.
I remember getting the Cliff Notes in high school, and like the day before the test, you'd get the Cliff Notes, and you'd just be reading that in the morning. And if we had a thing in our school where so many kids were just using the Cliff Notes, the teachers, they got so fed up with us that anybody caught with Cliff Notes would have like instantaneous, I don't know if it was detention or whatever it was.
Really? Because it was considered a mild form of cheating?
A major form of cheating in my school.
Major form of cheating.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, I mean,
it was offensive to everyone, and of course everyone had it. You just knew not to bring it to class anymore.
Yeah, have some sense.
Oh, those things were. Oh, I love it. Cliff Notes are everything. It's like, whenever, like back when I was doing Hypercritical with John Siracusa, there was one. He would talk about a video game or something, and he'd say, "Do not read the Wikipedia page on this." And I would, as soon as the show,
find out if Destiny wins.
Right, as the very end of the episode, as soon as we sign off, I immediately go to Wikipedia and read the whole thing.
Yeah.
How could you not? Someone tells you not to do it. Of course you do. Well, what's in these Cliff Notes that's so bad? I'm gonna find out. I gotta get it.
What is it that big literature doesn't want me to know?
Right. Why is it bad to summarize a chapter?
Yeah. Wall Street fat cats.
Seriously, scratching each other's backs, please.
San Francisco County Transportation Authority. So basically, there's this research that was undertaken on the city of San Francisco on the impact of ride-sharing services. I don't have a lot to say about this. I just think it's kind of fascinating, and these numbers are pretty amazing. This is in Curbed, which is a local website. Lyft and Uber, headline. Lyft and Uber drivers generate 20% of miles driven on San Francisco streets. Doesn't that seem kind of amazing?
Yeah, that really is.
Here's some bullets. Ride shares are 15% of all trips taken on an average weekday. That's about 170,000 pickups.
Oh my God.
9% of all person trips. Nobody's sure how many Uber and Lyft drivers the city has, but the city estimates that it's around 45,000.
Wow.
This is a city that is smaller than 7 miles by 7 miles. Most of this is happening in the northeast kind of corner of the city. 12.6% of whom are active most days. Hundreds more come in on Friday night. Between 7:30 and 8:30, the number is closer to 6,500. That, on the other hand, there are only 1,800 legal taxis that are still in operation. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
My
we got
neighborhood.
Lyft and Uber back here in
What?
Austin. Yeah, they're back.
Well, what accommodation was made?
I
by whom?
don't know, but it doesn't matter. They're back. So next time people go to South by, they'll actually be able to get around the town again.
Wow, that is crazy.
Yeah.
I'd heard that this number was high, but that's higher than I expected.
This is really high.
Yeah, my wife and I were not arguing, but talking about it a little bit. It's interesting. I mean, setting aside what a terrible company Uber is, it's pretty great though that like all those people are like not driving their own car to go somewhere and then pay to park it and clog up the street. And I don't know. It's interesting. It's an interesting time.
But see, it's so frustrating because Uber is such a horrible company.
Terrible company.
And yet the thing that they do is so vital for cities, you know, and for people to get around. It's so frustrating because it's like the same thing with Amazon. Like you read about I don't know if it's true or not. But, you read about people working.
The work conditions.
The conditions are bad, and I'm like, yeah, but like, I really got to get that digital timer, and like, I can't get it at Target, and where am I going to get it?
I really need this comic book in 2 hours.
Right.
Sorry you're so hot.
Yeah. Right. Sorry you've been working 18 hours and sweating the whole time and not allowed to take a bathroom break. I really want this comic book.
Oh, I feel kind of bad now.
I know. You're going to grow the comic book yourself in your own organic garden?
3D print it? I don't think so.
Not yet.
What else are you working on?
What have I been doing?
What have you been doing? I do all the talking on here. You let me yammer on. I feel like you don't always get to say your due.
I talked about the spiders.
All right.
Been working really hard on my main thing. The way I would describe my days nowadays is coding on Fireside, interrupted occasionally by podcasting. That's basically what my days are.
That's a very good summary.
Yeah. But it's good, just cranking out features, fixing bugs, growing the business.
Got to grow the business transitively.
Yeah,
that's important.
But
good for you.
I haven't seen Wonder Woman yet. I haven't seen that, but I'm looking forward to seeing that while it's still in the theater.
Interesting, very interesting movie. This is topical, and just tell me if you want to skip it. How do you feel about the WWDC announcement regarding Apple sharing certain kinds of statistics for listenership via use of the Apple Podcast app? Like, how do you feel about that?
Well, okay, so this is something that for people who haven't seen that announcement, it wasn't one of the bigger ones that came out of WWDC, but Apple announced there that if you are I don't think they announced when they were rolling this out, but if you are using the Apple Podcast app, which based on everything that I've ever heard, and also I can corroborate this by the Fireside stats, most people use the podcast app.
Is that sidebar? Is that you're seeing that in your numbers?
Yes,
that is so interesting.
Dramatically large numbers, and I don't see specific downloads for specific shows. I'm looking at what is essentially anonymous stats that I can see, just sort of showing
big raw numbers.
Big raw numbers, like And I would have to look to see exactly what percentage it was, but it's way more than 50% the last time that I looked at it. Most people are using the podcast app, and I would think most of the people listening to this show, I don't know if I could say most, but I think a lot of them are probably using Overcast. A lot of them might be using Castro. I think some of them are using the podcast app. But if you are using the podcast app, it will, in the future, it will be sharing your listening behaviors, listener data, anonymously, as Apple always does, back to the iTunes or Apple Podcasts mothership. So what that means...
Including where you stopped listening to the episode.
Correct. Everything.
Where you skipped.
Yes, just like the kind of information...
Not where you did, but like in the aggregate, I guess.
Right. This is where people are stopping, or this is what percentage of people played the whole thing or skipped through the ads, or if they listened to it at all, if they just downloaded it and never listened to it. All of this kind of information, which has really been the holy grail for what podcasters who care about how their shows are being listened to, whether that's personal reasons or perhaps for advertisers. This is the kind of data that's been very, very difficult, if not flat out impossible to collect, because, and the reason is simple, once that podcast episode, his MP3 file has been downloaded, we don't know what happens to it. Is it on their computer? Did they play it? Did they not?
Did they download it 3 times?
Right.
Like, how did HTTP break it up into pieces? I mean,
Exactly.
you talked about the complexity of trying to calculate that in a meaningful way.
Right. So this is another level of data that we haven't been able to get. And I've talked to a lot of the people who make the podcast apps and said, would you ever be willing to collect this kind of data and potentially store it and potentially share it? Is that something I could plug Fireside into so that people would know? With an API, all of this stuff has been very interesting to me. And I think anyone who's doing podcasting, especially with the intent to try to make any money from it, this is valuable information. It's the kind of information that they've had on YouTube forever. And I've talked to a number of people who had done YouTube things, and then they come to podcasting. They're like, well, I don't have any information. I don't have any, because YouTube gives you all of this. Why? Because YouTube's player, the only place to watch a YouTube video is with their player embedded or on the YouTube site, and that player gets all of this information. So every time you click play on a YouTube video, that playing or pausing, whatever, that's all transferred up to YouTube, and they can show that to the author of the video when they want to go in and look at it. They can see this is how many people played it, this is how many people paused, this is where they paused. Great information. I have wanted to see something like this for a long time. Now, the fact that it only works with Apple's podcast app, of course. So what that means is if you are a podcaster and 50% of your audience uses the podcast app, you're going to get really good data on 50% of your audience. But that might not necessarily be a complete picture, because the other 50%, they're going to be over with Overcast, they're going to be over with Castro, they're going to be on Android, playing it on Android, you know what I'm saying? And so the kind of people who are using the podcast app, typically I've found, are a different kind of person than the kind of person using Overcast.
Exactly what I was thinking. This is exactly what I was thinking.
So I don't feel like that's necessarily going to be a good... It's a wonderful source of information, but it's not definitive for your podcast listeners.
I'm cribbing some of this from this week's episode of Upgrade, where Mike and Jason were talking about this, but they had a point of view on this I thought was really interesting, which is that, right now most podcast advertisers, sorry, this is a little bit inside baseball, but I think it is kind of interesting personally. Most podcast advertisers, including our own, generally have, they got a metric of like how many people download it, but the main metric is like, are people signing up for this service? Are they visiting this page? That's a certain kind of advertising that, us medium-sized podcasts get. If you're a really, really big podcast who's getting brand advertisers, the examples they gave, something like Ford or Coke, it's very important to them. It's, when I say brand advertising, there's not any specific like outcome they're looking for, except that they want you to be thinking about Ford They
Right.
want you to be thinking about Coke, whatever. And that has been apparently some of the resistance to getting those bigger brands online, is that they really want to see that this many people saw the, or in this case, heard the ad. But this is where, I mean, as we sit here today, there's so many asterisks and question marks. You already nailed the first asterisk. I just sent you a screen grab from a different show that I do with the actual numbers redacted. But can you get that? Did you see that?
Yeah, I'm looking right now.
So our number one app is Overcast at 42.4%.
Uh-huh.
Our number two app is Pocket Casts at 34.05%. Number three, iOS Podcasts.
Yeah.
10.6%. And then web browser, iTunes, other Android, Castro, Downcast, et cetera, down the line. But the reason this becomes all about asterisks and question marks is like, okay, so who this could be a home run for are the serials of the world, like a very popular, because I agree with you, just to follow on to your record, I don't know that many people that use the Apple Podcast app, and yet I'm constantly told that it's the most popular podcast
Right.
app
Like
in the world.
I was talking to one of the people at ESPN about their podcasts and how they host them and things like that, and they were telling me that overwhelmingly that for them, I think he said 90% is the Apple Podcast app.
If you've got a mainstream show, it makes a ton of sense, because you come at this from the point of view of like, maybe there's an existing media property, maybe there's buzz, again, something like Serial or something like the Richard Simmons show, one of these shows that comes along that it's kind of a what's the phrase, Syracuse, the tractor effect or whatever. Like, these are going to bring in a lot of people to this medium, regardless in some ways of genre. So if mainly you go, oh, all my friends are talking about Serial or the next Serial. By the way, it was so nice that Serial invented podcasting.
Yeah,
but
really.
but one of these major shows comes along, you're just gonna go click the button, and then it's gonna go to the Apple Podcast app, and that's why would you go any further? That's the default. That makes tons of sense.
And it's going to sync up with, if you have it on multiple devices in your Apple TV, it's in all of those places. So if you subscribe to something on your phone, there it is on the Apple TV too.
Well, take this with a grain of salt, given the numbers of this popular show. The lowest client on the list is Apple TV, with exactly one download.
Wow.
Whereas Overcast is 6 digits.
Well, the other, like at Fireside, one of the big things that I've done from the very beginning is tried to make really, really good analytics and download data so that you can go there and see pretty accurately how many downloads you have, A, but B, like, where do they come from in the world? When are they happening? How are they happening over time? I mean, all of that's there, but the one piece that's missing is what actually happens after the download. And that is what Apple's announcement attempts to help us out to know that. In other words, I can tell you for your 100,000 downloads that you just got on that episode, Fireside will tell you, like, this is when they happened, where they came from, how they happened, what devices grabbed them, all of that. But that's where the data typically stops, unless you have an application like the new version of Podcast, which is going to report back on your behaviors to the mothership, and podcasters can now go in and see that. And I really, really doubt, but I'm hopeful, but I doubt that Apple will make that available through an API. I feel like you're probably going to have to use their iTunes tools that exist already in order to go in and look at those stats. I don't think that that's something that you'll be able to pull out and look at elsewhere. Like, I don't know but if they do come out with an API, then I'll definitely hook into that. The other thing, Ron, I don't know if that got a little bit less attention was that they're also releasing an iTunes specific spec for RSS that will allow people to do something
that's very exciting.
Yeah, that we've all wanted to do for a long time, which is namely like seasons of shows. So,
and like, is this a trailer? Is this a bonus?
Right.
Is this a canonical? Is this show episodic or What was the two options? Like, is this one of those shows where we just increment the number every week, or is this part of a season? Is this part of a series? Right. So is this, just this thing where like we do 6 episodes, then we do 6 more episodes, and each one is a freestanding thing. So, make sure you start at the beginning versus our show where we hope you can hop in anytime. I think those are great. Those are great additions.
Well, I mean, it makes perfect sense because that's exactly where things have gone, and pointing back at Serial as an example of that, they had seasons. We don't have seasons of this show, but for a lot of people, they do. They want to have seasons, or like you mentioned, they want to have this is a regular episode, this is bonus content, or
we wouldn't need an After Dark feed.
That's
we
right.
could have an After Dark feed, but it makes even more sense to have that, I guess excluding the swears, like having that in the main feed,
right?
Makes a lot I
think that is very much, I think, a nod to the way that people are creating podcasts these days. I think it's really, really great, and I'm already working on integrating that in.
Well, and I mean, my overriding concern with a lot of this stuff is that I hope that for the longest time we can, podcasts stay an independent thing where you can get them however you want for free and listen to them in the device of your choice, and then we'll figure out the rest. There's all kinds of ways you can kind of mash on that model and do different things, but I'm very uncomfortable with the way that this is getting is evolving to be these big players who are ad middle persons and then wanting to use a bespoke app just for the purpose so they can get that data.
Right.
I think this is all positive in the sense that, like, if this is helping keep this medium, this platform independent, that's a good thing. It's in the Venn diagram of this, though. I mean, and I'm ready to be wrong about this, but I think for a giant show with brand advertisers, this is going to be a great thing to be able to add to the mix.
Right.
If you're not a giant show and it's not brand advertisers, or in my case, my shows are weird. I mean, they're successful as such for being like a small time podcast compared to what's happening with the giant shows.
Right.
Again, that'll be nice to have in the mix, but it's not. I mean,
yeah, I think the way we have to think of it, not to interrupt, but if I'm catching your drift, what I think you're saying is this is nice sort of supplemental information for a lot of people to say, we now have a window into what happens after that download takes place. We kind of have an idea, at least what the Apple users are doing with the show after they get it. But again, I think you mentioned that there are other outfits out there that have their own podcast client, and it's
with their own podcast terms.
With their own,
that are sometimes extremely onerous in terms of all kinds of things, and do a lot of wackadoo stuff with your feed that's pretty gross.
Right, and they're all doing that just so that they can monitor what happens after you hit play or when you hit play. And the other thing that seems pretty popular that I actually get a lot of people asking me about is ad insertion. And
like post release,
right? So
your back catalog can be updated with.
Yeah, and this is very much an inside baseball kind of thing. But there's basically 2 or 3 different uses goals for ad insertion. But as you and I do ads on our shows, we're talking about one of our sponsors, and then that ad stays in the show. We record it almost 99.9% of the time. We're doing it while we're recording. We're not doing anything like a drop in, and then the show comes out, and that ad is part of the show. It's in our midst of our conversation, and then it comes out to the world, and then it stays that way. So if you listen to episode 1 or episode 7, hopefully, you're going to hear the same spots that we did back then.
For sponsors who aren't paying today, I mean, servers submerged in oil. Like that's still there.
That's still there. They paid for it, and it stays in there. And ad insertion, one of the things that happens with ad insertion, whether it's automatic or not, is that, and I know Radiolab has been doing this for quite a while. I think This American Life maybe did too, and that you could essentially purchase the ads for their back catalog, like you just mentioned, so that what that would mean is somebody could come up to us and say, hey, I want to sponsor, all of the episodes that you've done. And I could say, okay, here's how much it is. And then there would be some button I would press that would take the ad that I just now recorded just today and put it in all of those previous episodes automatically and then re-export the MP3s so that anybody new who came along and downloaded it, they're going to hear this brand new ad from 2017 on this show that's 3 years old. And so that's one of the goals. Apple doesn't host. There's still people who think Apple, like iTunes, hosts your podcasts. People still, I think that. They're not doing anything like this. They're steering clear, wisely, I think, of anything to do with ads and advertisements, but they're also at least acknowledging people really do want to know what's going on after the download. So I think this is a step in the right direction. I'd be curious to hear what, because the last time that I sort of briefly talked with Marco about this kind of thing, I hope I'm characterizing this correctly, but he seemed to not like the idea of collecting data from users. I don't blame him for that. I think it anonymized data, the storage of that kind of thing, some people really don't want anything to do with their behaviors logged or sent to a mothership anywhere. So
yeah, I mean, the stance at places like Relay and for myself is I don't want to know.
Yeah.
I mean, personally, I don't. Well, the things, I don't want to deny anybody else that. I think for those kinds of media properties, it makes tons of sense. If you've got 300 or 400 episodes of a show, you've got this giant back catalog, and you're still getting new listeners. I think that it makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of a different kind of thing. Of course, the kind of chicken in me is going like, oh gosh, I hope that's not the kind of thing people start expecting out of us, because then that becomes. But but who knows? It's just that in this case, this other show I'm looking at here, 10.6 in iOS podcast. Who knows? It might go up, might go down. But I mean, that's just a stretch. But it's almost like saying, how many people listen to this in a recent Honda Accord? Where you go like, that's interesting to know,
Howdy.
but like doesn't really get at the
King royalty.
If it is a kind of
My
vertical
liege.
show, or a show that is a little bit obscure, you're only getting 10% of the stats. You're only
Right.
Only 10% of the stats are addressable, and that might not be the most diehard fans. Let's just say it. The most diehard fans of shows I suspect, are going to be on Overcast and Pocket Cast.
For sure.
At least for the immediate future. So I guess what I'm trying to get at, without sounding too chicken, is, well, probably do sound chicken, but like it would bum me out if people got the impression that only people using the free default app were the ones who were driving the success of the show. But again, you make it part of the mix, I guess. I didn't mean to make it go this long. I thought it was very interesting.
But it is interesting, and I think it's interesting also to kind of the picture of the way that we consume media in general. I mean, I'm very curious to know if the Netflix app, for example, on my Apple TV or Fire TV or whatever, isn't that reporting back? Hasn't it always been reporting back? And how?
Oh, yeah.
How anonymous is that? Well, how do they know what's trending on Netflix if it wasn't showing that people were hitting play on it?
They play all of their stats hopelessly close to the vest, except for the ones that they are extremely proud of,
Right.
which have a way of getting out.
Yes, and for me, I've done some podcast advertising for Fireside, and I want to know, again, we're in the same situation with all kinds of sponsors on there, which are like, hey, give me a promo code, I'll give you a promo code, and that's the way that you sort of track performance. But maybe people are skipping the ads, and that's why it's not working. How do we know? So that it really does answer that question. And what about you? I mean, would you care if your podcast app was reporting information back up to a anonymized information back up to a mothership? Would you care?
I mean, not strictly, but like so many things in contemporary life, I'm trying to worry less about how it affects me and think more about how it affects others. Just in the sense that, I don't know. I personally, I tend to really reject that idea of like, I don't have anything to hide. It's like, well, yeah, you don't, but that's a privileged position to be able to say something like that. Like, there's all kinds of stuff that people are listening to that or doing that I would just assume that even in relatively anonymized version, because when people say things are anonymized, well, in order to get it anonymized, there have to be certain assumptions that go into it to munging it up. That means they do have the ability to get something fairly granular out of it if they chose to. And I think that's the kind of thing we need to keep our eye on. But I don't know. I mean, the whole industry is so up in the air who knows? But in terms of being an Apple consumer, I mean, if it doesn't affect the performance of your device and how you're listening to it, I guess it's probably okay. And you think they maybe would have a way to flip it off?
I think there should be a way to flip it off. And knowing Apple, there probably will be. But, like when you think about something like Netflix, like I don't care if Netflix knows what we as a family are watching or doing or anything like that. But if you were to say, what about if your browser history was also being sent up to a mothership? Like, what if there was a scandal that, oh my gosh, all along Chrome has been capturing it and sending it, and now Google knows every site that you've ever gone to? And, I think people might have a different reaction if they're like, well, I don't care if they know that I watched House of Cards, but I don't want them knowing that, I went to such and such website, and so I think it's very, somehow there's a difference. And I often suggest to people when I talk about this, like, at what point would you mind when you say, oh, my life's an open book, I don't care who knows, like like you're saying. There is going to be, eventually you will find something in your life that you don't want to be public, or that you wouldn't want to share with a third party. And at that point, you have to say, well, why is that significantly different? Why is what articles you read on the internet different from what show that you watch on Netflix? Really, at a fundamental level, it's no different. It's the same.
Well,
it's a privacy issue.
It's also, it belies a certain ignorance about what you can do by combining two or more pieces of data. That's right. the real story. Is that, and so there's two parts of this I think are a little bit short-sighted. One is the whole, like, I have nothing to hide. I've never tried to figure out how to poison my spouse or something like that. Right. I have nothing to hide. Okay, like I kind of take that point. I understand what you're saying. Like, why should I do it? They have nothing to hide. But think about this. Think about if I'll just take a really obvious one. What if your podcast app is able to report the times that you listen to podcasts? And what if a lot of that time is when you're at your job, when you're not supposed to be listening to podcasts? Well, you deserve that. You're not supposed to do that. Well, but like, what if you combine that with like something like, your Uber data for like where you were at a certain point, combined with calendar events that show that your wife was out of town. I hate to make this all about spouses, but there's all kinds of ways.
That's absolutely the kind of cross-referencing of data that would happen or could happen.
Right, and let's be decent enough Americans that we say to ourselves that we're not just looking for protection from the thing that's on our mind right now, but we're looking for something more basic about protecting the privacy and security of everybody. And it certainly sometimes feels like death by a thousand cuts. I just think it's worth keeping an eye on how that stuff gets used and combined. And keeping one eye focused in that direction is not the sign that you're like a criminal.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I can really see both sides of the argument. I can see the person who's like, I don't care, I don't do anything weird, I don't care what people see. And the flip side of that is like, I actually don't want anything I do targeted or tracked by anybody. I know people, when I was talking about Chrome and Safari on Twitter a couple of weeks ago, and I had a lot of people, I think I was experimenting with Firefox, trying Firefox out again for some reason. And a lot of people wrote back and said, multiple people, I would never use Chrome. I know they know that Google is capturing all of their browsing history and doing things with it. And, I don't think that's true, but
no, as in I have a strong hunch.
Yes, no, as in they believe that, whether or not it's founded. Not like they have proof of it or they worked at Google, but simply that's what they think, or that's what they think the potential is there. And they were saying that's why I use Safari, or that's why I use something else. But I don't blame anybody for having that kind of philosophy. I think it's interesting how far we are willing to go with what we do share in order to get these benefits. And it really is like, oh, do you want this delicious pizza here? Well, in return for that pizza, you know what? Tell me a little bit about your family.
Cool, and I want to know what you did after you ate it.
Right. And where you ate it. And how much you paid, and what credit card you used.
And why did you stop eating it?
Right.
Like, what took your attention away from that? Were you trying to poison your spouse?
That's right. That's right.
I need to know for my advertisers.
Minority Report with the pre-crime division where this person is going to do this kind of thing. How long? And now I'm stepping into the conspiracy theory camp a little bit, but how long before companies not only do the thing like, okay, so here's something interesting. I was looking at digital timers on Amazon because we need to get a new digital timer, and
I know how this ends.
and so I was then later in that day. Okay, so I was at work on, I forget if it was Safari or Chrome, but just in my regular web browser, browsing Amazon, looking at digital timers. Later in the day, I posted a picture to Instagram, and I was flicking through my Instagram feed, and there was an ad. And by the way, I'm seeing like 1,000 ads all of a sudden in Instagram now.
I heard about this. It sounds terrible.
It's terrible. Like every third post is an ad now. And one of the ads was from Amazon, and it showed the frickin' digital timer that I had looked at on my computer and the thing. So somewhere, even though I'm using Ghostery and everything else, somehow they've figured it out who I am and what I'm looking at on Instagram and what I have in my cart on Amazon. And I know how these things work because I'm a software developer and I build web apps and stuff. But that doesn't make it any less creepy. And I don't really like that. I don't want to have that suggested. But what if you take this to the next step, where if enough of these services and systems that we use are sharing information with one another or with some other third party to the point where they're actually go away from, oh, we saw you looking at these things, here's more of these things. What if they actually get smart enough to say, we now understand your habits, we now understand your behaviors, we think you're going to want this thing. And not in just a way of like, you looked at this bowling ball, here's another bowling ball to look at, but like, we saw that you were looking at bowling balls and you were here at this location at this time, and you know what, it's getting colder out and maybe you're going to join a league, so now, you know what I'm saying, like where they actually start to put something together about you and predict things that you might do. And like if you were looking up how to poison your spouse, that maybe you get put on some list where they're watching you or something. You know, I don't know. I don't love it. I don't love it.
Yeah, and sometimes you have to wonder the benefits of it, because it's one of those Jurassic Park type situations where you're like, well, okay, so you have the ability to know, you've dedicated all of this technology, and in this case image recognition, to knowing that I was looking at a timer, and now you just start showing it to me everywhere. It's a little bit like a peeping Tom who keeps sending you pictures of yourself naked. It's like, where are we going with this?
Yeah.
I just sent you a link to something, an EFF tool that I think is really interesting called Panopticlick.
Oh, I had not heard of this.
And basically, you go in, and the simple thing that it does is that it runs some tests, and the simple results it gives you are, based on these 4 tests, what is the result? Is your browser blocking tracking ads? Is your browser blocking invisible trackers? And most score yes, if you got everything turned on. Then you get, does your browser unblock third parties that promise to honor do not track? And then does your browser protect you from fingerprinting? This is very interesting. So if you go click on that and run it, it shouldn't screw up the recording too bad. But if you do that and then click on the, what is it, more underneath, you'll see the actual numbers for how many browsers out of how many, your browser out of how many browsers, how identifiable it is. So for example, the interesting one here is the hash of Canvas fingerprint, 17.53 bits of identifying information. 1 in 189,463 browsers has that hash, right?
Yeah.
So that's pretty identifying. But take all of these little pieces. What browsers do you have installed? What's your time zone, et cetera, system fonts, all of these things. Putting those together, that's why you're seeing those ads. Because I think it's because there are invisible, I don't mean to sound again conspiratorial, but there are non-obvious, non-clear ways to identify browsers by all kinds of ways. I mean, think about the way the CAPTCHAs work now, where CAPTCHAs don't even require you to enter in the text anymore because it can tell by the way you're moving your mouse and doing stuff, like whether you're actually a robot or not.
I think that's pretty interesting. It can just tell.
I've tried running Panopticlick on a whole bunch of different ones. I've tried it in private mode just for fun. I tried it in there's one on iOS that I mentioned, I think, a couple weeks ago.
Warm
it's
in
like
here
a
to you?
privacy browser. But yeah, so your browser fingerprint appears to be unique among the 378,926 tested so far.
Lovely.
18.53 bits of identifying information. Drink responsibly. Dan, did you want to tell me about one more thing that you like?
Yeah, I would. This is a new sponsor, and it's pretty cool. It's a timely one because we've got Father's Day coming up. But this is a really cool. The company is called Storyworth, and so here's the scenario. It's about sharing stories. So everybody, I'm sure listening, has a family member who tells good stories, right? Something that went on in their childhood, something about the way that things have changed. You know, like when they were on a boat trip across the Atlantic, or something they did in college, or just really great stories. Like my grandfather always used to tell these really great stories. Well, this is basically the genesis of this company. It was kind of a guy who wanted his dad to record all of these stories that he told, and the whole family enjoyed this process of like